The more that I look into what's actually doing well and what the market is responding to and how some of the media kind of looks and tries to paint a picture of things, the more you kind of see a disconnect between what's actually happening and what the media will try to tell you to try to influence what's going on or what they want when it comes down to it. And there's no bigger example of this of the Nintendo Switch itself. Now listen guys, the Nintendo Switch is old at this point, right? When it comes to a system, it's been out for a long time. We all know this. And yes, Nintendo is already getting ready for their next system. There will be a next Switch announced or revealed sometime within the next, I don't know, 12 months or so. I think that there's going to be a new Switch that's going to be announced, and it's coming. Nintendo's obviously already working on that. Heck, they already told us that back in 2021 when they told their investors that there is a next generation Nintendo Switch console, and they're investing over $1 billion into new games as well. So that's already known at this point. But what we're seeing is that we're seeing a lot of people talk about exactly what the Nintendo Switch or next Nintendo Switch or what Nintendo's going to do. And all of a sudden we got a lot of people who doubted the Nintendo Switch from some of these major places turning into Switch experts, people that barely play some of the first party games, all of a sudden saying that Nintendo is going to do this or do that. But what we're going to do here is we're actually going to break down what happened, what the most actual route is, and the big golden opportunity or the big ticket that Nintendo's going to do heading into the next generation that's going to lead to more success because of what they've done this time around compared to what they've done before. Now, we're going to talk about this because in Japan, the top 10 software and the top 10 hardware have been revealed. And it's something that a lot of major places are not reporting on, whether they're trying to downplay how big Japan is, or they're waiting for the Xbox to outsell PlayStation 5 one time before they actually write something. There is a little bit, or not even a little bit, there is a lot of bit of a disconnect when it comes down to it. But we're going to go over this because I find it to be pretty significant, and these sales numbers are worth talking about. And once again, it leads into what we're going to be discussing going forward with the next Nintendo Switch and many things that I've discussed as well. Now, in Japan, there was a full breakdown of the top 10 software and the top hardware when it comes to sales. Now, this gives us actual numbers of physical units. Now, it does not give us digital units, and we have to make sure that we factor that in or at least think about it. But right now, it's looking like this, guys. The top 10 software in Japan. From the bottom to the top, number 10, Elden Ring, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate on the Switch, Mario Party Superstars on the Switch, Minecraft on the Switch, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Switch, Nintendo Switch Sports on the Switch, Kirby and the Forgotten Land on the Nintendo Switch, Pokemon Legends Arceus on the Nintendo Switch, Splatoon 3 on the Nintendo Switch, and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet on the Nintendo Switch. Now that is 9 out of the top 10 for the year. And if you think about that just for a second, think about how crazy it is because Pokemon Scarlet and Violet came out at the very end of the year and still outsold everything else when it comes down to it in terms of total units. Now, obviously that is huge, right? Look at all these games here. These are all big blockbuster games. Pokemon, Splatoon, Kirby, Nintendo Switch Sports, Mario Kart, Minecraft, more Mario, Super Smash Brothers. But a lot of these games are also games that came out not necessarily in this year. So for example, Minecraft, Mario Party Superstars, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, also Super Smash Brothers. These games did not come out this year. So it shows that there is evergreen and what Japanese players are contributing to and what the direction of the company is probably going to be. Because look at these sales numbers here. It's not just Japan. These sales can be attributed towards any other region when it comes to what Nintendo Switch players are buying and liking. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, whether it's Splatoon, Pokemon Legends, whatever the case is, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, all of these games did great in other regions. Now, there might be some small differences here and there between exactly how well or the frequency in certain places like Europe or in certain places of Asia or whatever the case is, but this is just Japan. And if you project it out to what else Nintendo does, it's very similar, right? Very similar across here, especially here in the United States. Now, if we move over to the hardware side from the bottom to the top, Nintendo 2DS and 3DS, PlayStation 4, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5, and then the Nintendo Switch. Now, with all of these numbers, guys, you have the totals that you guys can clearly see how much they've sold when it comes to the software and also when it comes to the hardware. The Nintendo Switch overall sold over 4.8 million units. That is pretty much more than triple any other system on the market with the PlayStation 5 and everything. Now, we do know that there's been a severe shortage when it comes to PlayStation 5 and also shipment routes. Obviously, Sony is not going to ship all their stock to Japan. They're going to ship it more to the US and also for Europe as well, because the games are slided more towards that base. Now, things might change it up a little bit once we get stuff like Final Fantasy 16 and all of that, but still, for right now, that's what we're looking at here. But even I feel that there was more stock when it comes down to it. I feel the Nintendo Switch is still dominating at a level that we really haven't seen before since like the PlayStation 2, since the PlayStation 2 in Japan. The DS maybe a little bit as well, DS, PlayStation 2. And funny enough, Nintendo is approaching those numbers when it comes to the Nintendo DS, as it's pretty much passed up the Game Boy at this point to be the third best selling system of all time. So what do we usually see in the media when it comes down to this? And I get it, everybody wants a new system, but we see, or at least people try to paint it as, oh my gosh, there's a problem. Everybody's hating the games. They're not running good enough. There's so many issues. And don't get me wrong, it could absolutely be better. And it's going to get better when it comes down to what Nintendo does for the next generation. But the reality of the matter in terms of what people are playing, because a lot of these games have been out, there's word of mouth, there's online reviews, people can see whatever they want, is that people are enjoying what the games are bringing. And Nintendo has a very unique brand and a very unique style that gets them to have these type of results. Now, if Microsoft or Sony had these type of results in any major region, whether it was Japan, Europe, or the United States, it would have been plastered over every single website. But since it's Nintendo and it's something that they're used to, it's almost like Patrick Mahomes passing for 5,000 yards again. It's like, okay, well, yeah, he's done it again. He's always passing for that many. So we're not going to give him his flowers like that. But this is an incredible thing to do. This is absolutely incredible to see a company kind of dominate in this type of way and have a stranglehold on the alternative to the major AAA cinematic, I need this in my games. Nintendo has been able to carve out a niche that has grown in size to the point to where it's overwhelmed, I think, people that they don't even understand exactly how they're getting it done, considering it doesn't have the type of power of the Xbox and the PlayStation. But once again, this is why it's a big ticket golden opportunity for Nintendo going forward, because if you look at the type of games that they're doing, nobody else is making these type of games at that level. So when you're talking about what you're going to do for the next system and what they're doing and what the truth is about the Nintendo Switch, the reality is that people just want to play incredible games. People just want to play incredible games, and they just want to be able to have fun with their brands or whatever they like. That's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. And that philosophy is what's going to drive Nintendo to do what's next. It's not what people are talking about on the internet, what people are complaining about, talking about power, it needs to be PS5 and all that. Don't get me wrong, that stuff, they're probably looking at it, but they're looking at what their games can do, what they can sell, and what technology is available to make that stuff happen. I personally feel that's going to be the biggest factors. If you're someone who's not playing Nintendo first-party games, if you're someone who's not looking at the sales numbers and reporting normally, if you're someone who's not looking at what they've said in their investor meetings and only bringing up PlayStation and Xbox in terms of what Nintendo needs to do next or what their strategy is going to be, you're going to end up being wrong. Once I actually started going in depth and really analyzing what the Nintendo Switch was from that first January presentation, after they showed that off in the games and what they're going for, it was hard for me to be wrong after that, because I said, I'm going to really look at what they're doing. We're going to have a lot of experts kind of popping up out of nowhere, a lot of content creators popping up out of nowhere, telling you this or telling you that with Nintendo. Meanwhile, they're not even looking. They're not analyzing and looking at what's actually working and seeing how that's going to steer the company. Meanwhile, they're looking at what Microsoft and Sony does and saying, well, somebody else needs to do this because I like this. That's not the case. And people like myself are not going to be the ones that sway Nintendo to do one thing or another. I'm simply reporting on what's going on here and telling you guys this is how things are going to be shaping up. And if you look at Nintendo going forward, obviously the power bump is going to be something that they're going to be looking at. But I think the technology in terms of what we have available now, what Nintendo has available now that we know that this format, this hybrid, is a hot commodity, it's something that's successful, the investment in one platform and the investment in the advancement of technology can not only come cheaper for Nintendo at this, but also better when it comes to what we just have. Obviously, the Tegra X1 was a pretty crazy chip for its time in terms of what it could do, like what we saw at that briefing that they had back in 2015. But I think now at this point, the technologies that are available with what they've been able to advance with DLSS and other things, Nintendo can really create a system that goes above and beyond what it's listed. It can punch well above its weight and end up being something where all of these type of games can be taken to another level, because that's the thing. The first level was being able to play this type of console style quality anywhere that you want. That was the first level. Now we're getting to level 2. Now we're getting to level 3. And I think that's where Nintendo's really going to accelerate with this. And it's going to be such an incredible thing to watch going forward in the future, especially because right now they're kind of dominating even at this age. It's somewhat impossible, and the truth of the matter is that no other system, or it's going to be hard for a system to replicate this type of success in every single region, whether it's North America, the major 3 regions, North America, Europe, and also the US. It's going to be incredibly hard for any other company to replicate that. Nintendo has a unique opportunity because they have Japan by a stranglehold at this point to be able to sell 27 million units plus of their system in Japan. None of the other companies can even come close to that, and that's fine. They can really put up big numbers in other areas. They're not necessarily looking to have those type of numbers. Nintendo has a hybrid, a portable device that can also be very popular in a place like Japan to sell really good numbers. Like the 3DS sold really good. Obviously, all of their portable systems do there, but they also have a hybrid that can also really pack the punch of console style games as well. So it's a unique opportunity. It's something interesting, and it's something that we're going to continue to talk about going forward when it comes to what's doing well, what Nintendo's motivated by, and what they're going to be doing going forward. But like I stated before, look out for these people that are going to come out of nowhere and say Nintendo needs to do this, or they need to do that. Meanwhile, they didn't play anything. When it comes down to all they played was Mario and Zelda, they called it a day, and they didn't look at the decisions that kind of shape what's going forward in different areas where things are selling and what got the job done for them before. But that's just my opinion on the matter. I'll have more videos talking about it, but I wanted to move into something else because Fire Emblem Engage, speaking of the sales numbers and stuff, there's something that I think that is a really interesting thing with this game, with Fire Emblem Engage. And the more information that we get about the title, the more excited I get. Now, for those who don't know, Fire Emblem Engage is coming out on January 20th. That is next week as of the time that I'm recording this video. And I think that it's going to be pretty cool. But there's new information about some of the side activities that you can do in this game. And I wanted to talk about it because I like what I'm seeing here quite a bit. And I think that Fire Emblem Engage is one of the big, I would say, things for this year. One of the big games that's going to surprise a lot of people in terms of how well it does. I'm going to get into that, why I think that even a bit more than what I've said before at this point. But I first want to go over some of the side content and activities that have been detailed a bit more. Shout outs to Satsuma over there on Twitter, and of course the official Fire Emblem Twitter page. And they showed off this right here, which is the mini games. And there are 3 types of exercises that you can attempt in muscle training, which will temporarily increase Alir's stats. The increased stat depends on the exercise. For example, squats give a skill +3. So very good stuff there. I like to see some of the mini games. Some people were saying that it was corny. I'm like, no, this is awesome to see stuff like this. I love when RPGs do these mini games, side quests, and all that type of stuff. It's great. It's just great to fill out, you know, outside of the battling, outside of the story stuff. It's really cool. But there's even more on this because there's also fishing as well, and fishing is a favorite, right? When it comes to an RPG, everybody loves to fish in those games, and they showed off a little bit more of the fishing here and talking about exactly how you get fishing done in the game. So timing is everything in fishing. When the fish bites, watch their movements carefully and pull them in with the left stick. One-horned trout. Now, the thick horn on its head sometimes snaps off when fishing. Full of tiny bones, it's usually turned into fish paste. So that's a grim fate for this little tiny fish here. But hey, look, fishing was in Fire Emblem 3 Houses. I really liked it. It seems like the mechanics are actually improved in this one. So the muscle training and also the fishing are 2 important aspects of the side content for Fire Emblem Engage. That's really going to help round out this game in between big missions and story set pieces. So that's absolutely cool there. Now, there is one more thing that we're going to talk about when it comes to Fire Emblem Engage, and that is a brand new character. She looks pretty cool, and her name is Gold Mary. So Gold Mary is a royal soldier of Elusia, is both Hortensia's retainer and friend. She's described as reserved and timid, and also loves herself, so that's good. Gold Mary can occasionally say things that can be a bit forward. And in Fire Emblem Engage, Gold Mary starts off with the Brave Hero class. This is a hero of the battlefield with great skill. By using a variety of weapons, they break through the front lines. Now, you guys are seeing some footage of Gold Mary as well, and I love the marketing that they're doing for this game. It's starting to ramp up quite a bit, and you can tell that the marketing is ramping up quite a bit because it's actually translating into the sales as well. So the sales numbers are interesting because this game is seemingly tracking a lot better than what Fire Emblem Three Houses did. Now, I'm tracking it on 2 different places. I have some sources at some different retailers, which we can talk about the distribution and how well the game is moving once the game comes out. But for right now, we can track Amazon. And right now on Amazon, it's the 6th best-selling game. I think 5th if you don't count Pokemon Scarlet and Violet as individual games, or if you don't count like the PS5 bundle in with God of War Ragnarok, which is incredibly good. That is awesome to see Fire Emblem Engage here in the US doing so well. Now, as the game gets closer to release, we should see this jump up probably into the top 3 or so. So it's good to see that people are getting hyped and getting ready and pre-ordering on Amazon as more people are buying off of the site. Now, also, if you go over to the Japanese Amazon bestseller page, Fire Emblem Engage is the 2nd best-selling game overall. It's right there, right behind Pokemon Violet and right above Splatoon 3, which has been a juggernaut in Japan. So that goes to show you that people are getting hyped and ready. Now, also, if you combine that with some of the reports that I've already had with Fire Emblem Engage already passing up Fire Emblem Three Houses in pre-orders at the COMG by a large margin, and that was a while ago that it passed it up, and it's continued to just build its lead when it comes to total pre-orders over Fire Emblem Three Houses. This shows very good signs for the title, and also just for a game like this. Strategy RPGs necessarily aren't the biggest sellers out there, so to see Fire Emblem Engage getting so much early love here is absolutely a very positive and good sign for the future of the franchise, and of course of Intelligent Systems. So very good stuff all around. I'm excited for Fire Emblem Engage. I've got videos talking about it, some beginner stuff detailing it. I'll have links for you guys in the description, in addition to links to my videos talking about the Nintendo Switch 2, talk about what Nintendo's going to do, and getting you guys ready in terms of what has worked or what's been working for them and what they're doing going forward, because I think that's very important. And we're seeing a lot of reckless people out there when it comes down to it, not reference what the Switch is doing and how that's going to shape what Nintendo's going to do. But it is what it is. I've got videos for you guys, links in the description below. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and we'll see you guys for the next video. Peace out.